Good morning. We are back on the 1962. So we're going to work on some suspension today. See how far we can get with that. Hopefully put on some front end parts, some spindles, just kind of work over the front suspension. We'll get as much done as we can in this video. So let's get started. Okay, let's get a look at this front suspension. We got it up in the air, got the wheel off. Everybody knows how to do that. We're going to remove the shocks. We're going to remove the upper and lower control arms. The spindle all come off in one piece. I've got new spindles and hoses and everything. I'll have to put new upper and lower control arm bushings in. So we'll work on that here soon. The way this was set up in 1962, it has torsion bars instead of springs. So similar to what Mopars would have with the long torsion bar. So what we're going to end up doing is backing all that off, replacing the upper and lower control arm bushings, which are down here. The uppers are here. We'll take the control arms off. We'll replace the upper ball joint and lower ball joint. So we're going to replace the tie rod ends, put a whole new assembly on here. So it's going to be a disc brake conversion. So everything's new. So we'll get this all apart, get things cleaned up. We'll put you on time lapse for a little while and you can follow along and see what we do. And then come back when we start putting it back together again. All right, I was able to get that apart. The bottom ball joint fought me hard. I had to bang on it and bang on it to get it come free. The top one was a little bit easier. If you just smack on the flats here, it will actually free them up. The lower didn't work that well. I ended up taking a extension and running it down through the top hole and knocking that one free. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull the shock off. We're going to take the upper and lower control arms out, get them cleaned up, see what they're going to take as far as needing bushings. I can't tell from where we're at right now if we're going to need to replace those or not, but I'm definitely going to check them out and make sure if they do, they're going to get replaced. There's no reason to do all this work and not replace those. I know it's a hard thing to do. I will show you how to do that when we get to that point, but it's one of the things that if I look at a truck that's had a new front end put underneath it, that seems like the one piece that people skip is putting the bushings in the upper and lower control arm. They're just kind of a pain to do. They're not as easy as some of the other front end parts. So we'll get pulling these off, put you back on time lapse, and come back to you and give you an update. Going to get all these parts outside and get them power washed, get them cleaned, and start wire brushing the fender wells. Trying to get everything cleaned up so we can start putting new parts on this thing. Okay, we are going to show you what we did here with the power washing. Okay, the first step we did was to take and power wash everything, cleaned it on the inside and out. And it looks like it is fairly clean, but the goal now would be to put it on a table, and I'm going to go ahead and brake clean it, scrub it with a wire brush, and then paint it. And then we can finally get underneath the truck, clean that mess up, and then start putting parts together. Okay, as you can see, we ended up getting the upper and lower control arms. They fought me. If they would just welded the bolt onto the back side of the frame, it would have made it so much easier. It's so hard to try to get your big old hands in there to do it, but we got it in there. We got the shims put in place. We got the spindle put on. So next step is going to be putting the tie rod end in, going ahead and hooking up the torsion bar, getting the brakes put on, packing the bearings, all that stuff. But we're going to do that tomorrow because it is dark out and it is time to end this day. So we'll get back on it tomorrow and we will see you then. Good morning. We are back on the C10. We're getting ready to hang the front calipers, the rotors and the calipers, put the wheel bearings in, hook up the tie rod ends, hook the brake hoses up. So we've got a little bit of work ahead of us, and then we'll move on to the other side. So we're going to get started with packing our wheel bearings. I'll show you how I do it the old school way, and we'll just get started. Okay, we are going to get started here. So what I do generally, old school way, I'll take me a big old clump of grease here, and I'll slowly pack my bearings. You can see there's nothing really behind it or in front of it. You want to have this grease push out through the top. So with cup in your hand, you just kind of roll it in there, slowly but surely. And you can see it coming out from the top. And I usually do both sides like this. They do make presses for this that you can mount on your bench and put it in there and do it all in one thing. And that's great if you have one. And I've used them before, but I've always done it this way. So I just continue to do it. I've never really had a wheel bearing fail because of lack of grease. And you know, sometimes the old school methods are just as good. So as you can see, it is pushing its way up through the bearing there. That's a way you can tell if it's getting full or not. Now that I've done it on one side, I'll flip it over. And continue pushing it. And that way I know it's going completely through the bearing. Doesn't take long. You just want to make sure everything is packed. Then generally what I do is I will take my extra like this, put it in here, and then I will set it down inside. I like to fill the center area with grease. It's just easier. So I'm going to go ahead and pack the small bearing. So this is your front side bearing. I'm going to go ahead and do this while I have my hands all dirty. Then I'll put my seal on and we will get started. All right, now we will get our seal here. Place it behind it. Take care of that side. On this side, like I said, I think I'll use the grease gun to pack the innards. I like to just put extra grease inside of it. I like to fill the inside, so I just use my grease gun. This is a Ryobi electric grease gun. Okay. Sure that squirted through to the bottom, but that's all right. It'll wipe up. Take our other bearing. Make sure it fits good. And then put our rotor on. Followed by our keeper, our nut, I know some people are thinking, man, he didn't clean that rotor. Well, I do it when it's on the truck. It just seems easier to me. I can get both sides with a rag and get all the protective coating off of it. It seems like every time I clean them, I end up grabbing them, getting them greasy again as I put them back on. So I just try to do it all in one shot. So handy dandy fits all wrench here. Spin this on. Make sure it seats, and generally what I'll do is I'll take it down till it's snug. It off just a turn. Make sure it's seated in there well. Put my cotter pin in. Let's use the wrong tool for the right job. Okay, and then you will have your dust cap, wherever that took off to. What happens when I get unorganized? Things go astray. You guys ever have like things that go missing in action like this, where you have everything laid out and then you turn around and it's no longer there? I found it. I'll put our dust cap on. just that protective coating they put on there. Keep it from flash rusting. Comes off super easy, just a little brake cleaner and you're ready to go. Okay, next up, we are going to mount our calipers. So the calipers come loaded already, which is cool. You always need to make sure that your bleeder screw is on top, because that's where the air is going to catch at the highest point. You don't want to turn it around. You'll have the hardest time bleeding your brakes. The next thing we are going to do is, and I will put some, I use dry lube and I spray it down in between here so it can slide a little easier. That's just a graphite dry lube, but I always do that afterwards. So you take your brake hose here with your banjo fitting, and just remember that there is a copper washer on both sides, and it is a crush washer, so that's what gives you your sealing in it. So you just stick to that. See which way the best way for this brake hose is to go. You look here. So you can see brake hose goes on here. You got your washers on both sides of it. That's just a 7/16. You want to make sure it's snug. You just don't want to go too crazy with it. The next thing we're going to do here is hook up our brake line. It has a clip on here that's got to pop off. It'll set up in here, and then we will hook our brake line up to it. So I'll do that off camera. And the next step would be to go ahead and go to the other side. I want to get both of them set up because these tie rod ends are different lengths, and I didn't mark which one was right or left. So once I get it on there, I'll see which way is better. I ran, when I built my tie rod lengths, I matched them exactly to what I took off. At least it'll get me close. Once I get the brake line on, we'll get the shock put on this side, and then we'll go ahead and get under the truck and hook up the torsion bar. I don't know where I'm going to set it at. I'm going to kind of just run it up snug for now, see how low it sets between the 2.5-inch drop spindle, and just kind of adjust it from there once I get my rear springs on and I can see it at right height. So I'm going to put you on time lapse. Do the other side also. You've seen it once, you don't need to see it again, but you can follow along on the time lapse. All right, we were able to get the suspension put back underneath it, and the rear suspension. So we've got it lowered really nice, changed the tires out on this. So it actually has a pretty good stance right now. So we got some more pretty cool projects coming up with this truck. So make sure that you've subscribed and you hit that bell notification. So just go right here and click that, and you'll be able to see everything that comes out on this truck and other projects that we have. So I appreciate you stopping by Garage 3030, and until next time, we'll see you soon.